After ChatGPT 5, which we wrote extensively about in our last week's article, we've come to a realization that there's this quiet acceptance of LLMs in our lives. We disagree with this narrative, but for very specific reason. There's no bitterness here, but there is just an underlying fear and underlying danger that we want to really discuss and get out there. Brian, what is this underlying danger? And what are people missing when it comes to quietly accepting LLMs in their daily lives?
Well, as far as the phenomenon, that's one that I think it's very real, and it's only really been evident to me, over the last year. More and more people I just talk to every day are using LLMs. I think, of course, one of the obvious things is where it's shoved at you, like when you go to the internet and if you use the Google homepage for your search engine, or whatever you search in, there it is. There's a summary of it. Or you use Google Mail, open your mail up, there it is. There's an AI generated summary of it. You can hardly not see it. So in that sense, you read it and it seems okay. You might be savvy enough to know about the studies that suggest that the inaccuracies, often subtle, are much more prevalent than are evident. Because it always sounds good, it always sounds right. So you use them and you accept them and you accept that it's kind of AI. I think most casual users kind of semi get or somewhat believe in the hype that this is a kind of actual intelligence in the same sense that humans are intelligence. Technical people understand the technology, LLMs, from a technical standpoint, know that that's not true. Sequentially sequencing words based on their prevalence in corpuses of text is not the same thing as communication between minds. And so, but they kind of think that LLMs have a mind, and um, they seem to have a mind. They seem to have a personality in some cases, and some people are attracted to that personality, and so it's just kind of settling in as AI is here. This is what it is. And there's still a belief that it will change the world. What, and that's a pretty general belief. Certainly, there are um, more and more cracks in the investment bubble. Even Sam Altman came out this past week and said, yeah, there's an investment bubble and a lot of people will lose their money. Um, so another article, 98 to 90 some percent of the new AI startups are going to fail. So that's happening. But when all the dust settles, people will still be, using their chatbots here and there. Um, Not necessarily liking it too much, particularly ones who are kind of whipped to use it in corporate hierarchies or place like that, and not necessarily feeling it's really changing their lives that much better. Um, in fact, in some ways, negative. I compare it more to technologies that we have had, quote, foisted on us over the years that we really don't like. And there is that narrative, well, why? But why does that happen? Well, because at some level, it saves companies money. Now, it may not, and in that sense, that's more productivity, but it may be productivity at the expense of their customers. And a great example of that is telephone answering menus. They have not been around a long time, and for a person of your generation, you've never known anything else. But there was a day in the world that if you needed to call a company or call corporate or complain about something, or even call your bank, you pick up the phone, you dial the number, and it would immediately be picked up by a human being. And you'd get your business done, and you'd be done. Now, that's a very expensive proposition. People are expensive, particularly knowledgeable people. And so there was over the years a trend to outsource these jobs to call centers in other places. But you still got to talk to a human being, even though the experience of dealing with somebody who's, not uh, maybe harder for you to understand. But generally, still, it was a human being who could help you. And sometimes it was great. I remember a day and having a server problem, and I stayed on with some expert Microsoft expert on Microsoft Server. Yeah, it was in India, but it was all day long. And the guy was great, but it was a human being. And but then somewhere they started getting if then else logic trees and then chatbots. And what we have today most ubiquitously is these, you know, press one for this, press two for that, and you get into a tree of of logic, and you may get all the way down at one bottom of the tree and can't get back. And I don't know anybody who doesn't get frustrated by them. I mean, really angry and frustrated. And most people I hear making those calls and getting into those menus, pressing that zero, zero, and shouting, agent, agent, people hate them. It's much worse. It saves companies money and they all do it. And therefore, since they all do it, it doesn't become a competitive advantage to not do it, to invest in actual humans. So technology that did not make our lives pay. Now, as far as chatbots, there's still a belief and expectation that they're going to get better. That narrative is starting to wear a little thin. As we said with ChatGPT 5, we were told it was going to be artificial general intelligence. We're still hearing it from companies that stand to make lots of money. We're still hearing hype. There was one of the tech companies, director of AI this week said, no point in going to work and or going to law school or medical school because by the time you finish your job will be replaced by AI, meaning still LLMs. He's a company either selling LLMs or selling chips, the big ones. They're still coming up with a narrative. So people are hoping they will get better. Telephone answering machines never got better. With real-time LLMs, maybe they will get better and maybe they won't. So far, there's a lot of horror stories. LLM hallucinations are not going away. ChatGPT 5 still does it. They can't go away. They are part of the technology. Because it doesn't matter how big the data set, when you sum up the statistical patterns of words, that doesn't necessarily track to the way an individual expresses an idea. It's average. You take everybody's ideas and average them together and put them in words it's not necessarily meaningful. And it certainly has no necessary or even possible connection with reality. It's a probability. So what I think will happen is things will set in, a kind of cynicism will set in, and people will use it, but be more and more cynical about it. Like even before, for years, Siri was there, and people would use Siri for what it could do for them, but they came to laugh at it too. I mean, Siri is more laughed at than used. It could do a few things. Remind me, or set timer 1 hour. It's useful for that. I still use Siri for that. But it wasn't what it was supposed to be. It wasn't a digital personal assistant. And chatbots, I think, are clearly not going to become the kind of digital personal assistants. And they're not going to replace lawyers and doctors. I think that trend, that there are companies out there marketing psychologists. They use this chatbot as a therapist. I don't even understand how that's legal, but nonetheless, they are marketing. I think those are going to be the first to be swept away, either by legal action or with the fact that people will wise up to the fact that, a mindless algorithm is not a therapist. It should not be used as a therapist. And then there's the ones that people are going to use them as, romantic attachments. Well,
So if we have to quietly accept that chatbots and LLMs are not going to be this holy grail that we've been told and that I guess we had always wanted, we always wanted AI in some capacity. And again, we were told by the smartest people, apparently, that this was going to happen. What do we have to look forward to? Is the dream of AGI fading, or is there another way that we can get there?
well, we know You know the answer to that. At New Sapiens, we believe we have the answer because we have a system that actually understands the words you're saying. So the first thing we could do is you go back to call your bank and you get a Sapiens. And the Sapiens would say, "Oh yeah, you haven't called since, since last month on the 26th you called in and asked about X, Y, and Z, and we talked about that. And has that been resolved? Or what can I help you with today?" And you'll tell it in English without having to do it. And it'd be like your personal banker. Now, will it be as intelligent and as personable and as a real human being? But it's not likely unless you have a whole lot of money that you'll actually have a personal banker that knows you and takes care of you. People who have lots of money do have those things, and that's great for them. But it will get the job done for you very well. It will understand your concern, and if it can't, it will also understand right away if it has the answer to your question, and if it does, it will be able to give you to it, and you'll know that it will be authoritative. It'll be correct. There'll be no doubt in your mind because it'll be directly giving you information that it was given by an expert at the bank. Okay, so you'll be confident in that. You get your job done, you get your translation done, and you'll be able to get on with your work. That'll be such a huge um, a gain. And I think, we have often thought, wow, when sapiens get out there, it's going to just rock the world. It's going to shake the foundations of what people understand AI is. And that may be the case. But it's also very possible that we'll have kind of a quiet revolution. All of a sudden, somebody calls up the bank and they talk to an AI and the menu is gone and it actually understands what they say and they go, "Oh, that's better." And when they get a Sapiens on their phone, whether it's wrapped in, as a wrapper of a third party app, or it's actually a New Sapiens Companion Sapiens, and they start using it as a personal assistant. And it actually does the kind of things that a personal assistant should do about reminding them seamlessly and screening their emails and other things, not by a statistical summary, but based on what you told it you wanted to look for or not look for, what kind of emails that you care about and want to be told about. All of a sudden, the theory and other applications um, will start being better, will start working. And then suddenly, gradually, the promise that, the expectation that OpenAI and the big tech companies have created, and the hope and expectation that they've created, but not been able to deliver, start appearing, will start being there after all. So it will all come true, but it won't come true from LLMs. It'll come true from Sapiens technology. That's what I expect will happen.